If you don't like boring news but still crave the truth, then dive into The Robert and Crew Show. From mind-bending conspiracy theories to wild weather phenomena, we've got it all. Ever wondered what's really happening in your hometown, or what secrets the global news isn't telling you? We dig deep into the core of every story, unraveling the mysteries one podcast at a time. Join Robert and the crew as we navigate this vibrant, ever-changing cyberpunk landscape, bringing you interviews with the most intriguing minds out there. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, a news junkie or a weather enthusiast, there's something here for you. So strap in, listeners, because we're about to take you on a ride through the neon-lit alleys of truth and intrigue. This is the Robert and Crew Show, where the future meets the fantastic.
Welcome back to the Robert and Crew Show. As always, I'm Robert.
And I'm Crew.
Tonight,
sorry it took us for a while.
Podcast. Tonight is our See You Next Tuesday podcast.
Yep, it sure is. And we do apologize for being a little late. We got in a huge bro moment, so we had to, wait to go on to, have a talk. But that's normal. That's what bros do. So tune in for some more files.
All right. This is a funny little picture of JFK and Marilyn Monroe. Obviously created by AI. But JFK and Marilyn are wearing our shirts, bro. They're wearing the Robert and Crew shirts.
Yeah,
hey,
they are.
Julie, how are you?
Hello, Julie. Yeah, they are wearing our shirts.
They are. Boom, boom. All right. So here we go. Yeah, last time we did first 8 pages of the Warren Commission. And basically we got into that they were pretty hard watching this guy named Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
Now we're going to, and I don't remember, did we get to the shooting of JFK? I can't remember if we did or not. Did we get to the school book depository and Lee Harvey? Yes, we did.
We did. That was okay. So let's see. What part are we on the JFK files?
So we're right
5?
at they arrested Lee Harvey Oswald. No, we're at page 9 commission.
No. I'm talking about on in our series, because we've done part 1 where we showed videos. Part 2, we're on.
This is 3.
No, 4.
3 or 4.
4. We're on part 4. Part 4 of the JFK file. So, guys, this is our JFK file series. So it's going to take us a while to remember some shit because we've done so much on JFK so far.
A lot of info to memorize, a lot of info to have, and then thank God that we have the actual files so that we can pull them up and we don't have to mess up or anything.
Right.
But the first time we did the first 8 pages of the Warren Commission's report on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. This time we're doing the next 8 pages, so all the way up to page 16 of the Warren Commission.
Okay.
So I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Are you ready, crew?
I am ready.
Oh, wait, we got some comments. It's Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
Hey. What's up, Brandon? And Julie says, I'm doing good. How you guys? Well,
I'm doing all right, but me and Rob had a bro moment, so that's normal. But anyways, let's see what it says here. Okay. Mooney's discovery intensified the search for additional evidence on the 6th floor. And at 1:22 p.m., approximately 10 minutes after the cartridge cases were found, Deputy Sheriff Eugene Boone turned his flashlight in the direction of the two rows of boxes in the northwest corner near the staircase. Stuff between the two rows was a bolt-action rifle with a telescope sight. The rifle was
A
not touched. Yeah, the telescopic. Yeah,
Scott.
I thought it said. Yeah, I thought it said telescope for a second. I had to relook at it for a second. Yeah. Okay. Oh, until it could be photographed when Lieutenant J.C. Day of the Police Identification Bureau decided that the wooden stock and the metal knob at the end of the bolt contained no prints. He held the rifle by the stock while Captain Fritz ejected a live shell by operating the bolt. Lieutenant Day promptly noted that stamped on the rifle itself was the serial number C2766, as well as markings 1940 made Italy and Cal 6.5. The rifle was
Caliber.
the caliber.
So it's a 6.5 caliber. That's not. I mean, is that big bullets? I don't know. I don't know
I
what that shoots.
I
I
I
know
can't
it's 6.5.
remember. I could tell you if I remember, because I've played a lot of shooter games and
The
I've
rifle,
seen bullets.
right?
It was okay.
Says that
So
the rifle about 40,
the
it was
rifle
about
was
40
about,
inches.
yep, long, and when dismantled, no, disassembled, not dismantled, it could fit into a handmade paper sack, which after the assassination was found in the southeast corner of the building within a few feet of the cartridge cases.
How convenient. So you could break this rifle down and put it into a bag, and then take gallantly, put it all together at the top of the schoolbook depository, make a perfect shot at John F. Kennedy, and then disassemble it in the bag up the stairs, which he didn't do. He didn't do that. The rifle was put together when they found it. But
I'm
so
I'm
you're
cleaning my
telling me you did
glasses. No wonder I was having trouble reading, because I can barely. Hold on.
your
All
glasses
right.
were all fogged up?
No, they weren't fogged up. They were all smudgy,
Oh, I got you. Yeah,
which happens a
that's
lot. Now,
ridiculous.
now I can see. Perfect, perfect, perfect.
This little paragraph down here, the whole long and it could fit into a handmade paper sack, and the assassination found, which after the assassination was found in the building within a few feet of the cartridge. Really
Yeah.
convenient. Yeah, that's convenient. I mean, I know like they're saying he brought it up in a brown paper bag, but like, what the hell? You're not going to put it inside of a suitcase? Most people would put it in a suitcase. It's a rifle.
Well, like
Yeah.
you could easily hide a
Oh wait.
gun in a freaking umbrella and kill somebody that way, right?
Yeah, which is actually funny enough. On the grassy knoll, there's a whole harmful conspiracy theory that the man with the umbrella was actually a weapon.
Right.
It's funny you say that. Yeah, it
Well,
says
that
as
I was
Fritz and the
thinking about
Day
that.
were examination of this yeah, as Fritz and the Day were completing their examination of the rifle floor, Roy Truly, the building superintendent, approached with information that he felt should be brought to the attention of police. Police were questioning the employees. Truly observed that Lee Harvey Oswald, one of 15 men who worked in the warehouse, was missing. After Truly provided Oswald's name, address, and general description for police headquarters, he arrived at headquarters shortly after 2 p.m. Asked the detective to pick up an employee who was missing from the Texas School Book Depository. Standing nearby were police officers who had just arrived with the man arrested in the Texas theater. When Fritz mentioned the name of the missing employee, he learned that the man was already in the interrogation room. The missing school book depository employee and the suspect had been apprehended in the Texas theater were one and the same, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Of course.
So do we think Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy? I kind of think Harvey was a patsy. I think Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. I think you know what a patsy means, right?
Remind me, because
Basically,
it's been a long time since I've heard that.
Basically he's the convenient stupid. So you like brainwash, and then you like MK Ultra mind, and yeah, you get him into a room, you give him a whole bunch of crazy tropic things, and you tell them how the world is, and you brainwash them, and then you say a select few keywords, and then they go do a job, and then after the job is done, they don't even remember what they did.
Oh, so
Basically,
basically you're bringing up kind of like what they did to Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier,
yeah, it's a Manchurian candidate. Like that's what that is. It's a Manchurian candidate.
which happened a lot in the Soviet Union,
Or
and now we have
you,
MK Ultra.
yeah, for sure.
Which,
That MK
by the
Ultra
way,
is crazy.
we should do an episode this season about MK Ultra.
Oh, we will. MK Ultra is one of those that we have to do.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You want me to read this page?
The page we're on right now.
Yep.
Another change for Lee Oswald occurred in August 1952, a few months after he completed the 6th grade. Margaret Oswald and her 12-year-old son moved to New York City, where Margaret's oldest son, John Pick, was stationed with the Coast Guard. The ensuing year and one half in New York was marked by Lee's refusals to attend school and by emotional and psychological problems of a seemingly serious nature because he had become a chronic school truant.
Truant. Like
Truant, okay.
like when you're truant at school,
Oh
like
yeah,
when you're at
truant.
school. Yeah.
You're right. Okay. Lee underwent psychiatric study at Youth House, an institution in New York for juveniles who had truancy problems or difficulties with the law, and who appear to require psychiatric observation or other types of guidance. The social worker assigned to his case described him as seriously detached and withdrawn, and noted a rather pleasant, appealing quality about this.
So basically, they're saying that he needed psychiatric help and he was purposefully always missing school when he was a kid. Is that what they're saying, basically?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. A rather pleasant quality of this emotionally starved, affectionless youngster, Lee expressed the feeling to social workers that his mother did not care for him and regarded him as a burden. He experienced fantasies about being all powerful and hurting people. But during his stay at the youth house, he was apparently not a behavior problem. He appeared withdrawn and evasive, a boy who preferred to spend his time alone, reading and watching television. His tests indicated that he was above average in intelligence for his age group. The chief psychiatrist had diagnosed Lee's problem as a personality pattern disturbance with schizoid features and passive aggressive tendencies. He concluded that the boy was an emotionally quite disturbed youngster and recommended psychiatric treatment. Wow. Take that in for a minute, okay? This is what he concluded. He concluded that the boy was an emotionally youngster and recommended psychiatric treatment for a personality pattern disturbance with schizoid features and passive aggressive tendencies. Holy shit, that's a mouthful. Personality pattern disturbance, schizoid features, and passive aggressive tendencies. Say that 5 times fast.
Right.
So basically, they believed that Lee Harvey Oswald was crazy. So now let's see where this goes after this.
All right, you go and read it because I can't read it with the timer in the way.
Yeah, it says the okay, it says I'm just gonna say I don't know what those words are.
The
Fritz was
suspect.
about okay, there you go. The suspect Fritz was about to question in connection with the assassination of the president and the murder of the policeman was born in New Orleans on October 18th, 1939. 2 months after the death of his father, his mother Marguerite Claverie Oswald had 2 older children. One, John Pike, was a half-brother to Lee from an earlier marriage which had ended in a divorce. The other was Robert Oswald, a full brother to Lee and 5 years older. When Lee Oswald was 3, Miss Oswald placed him in an orphanage where his brother and half-brother were already living, primarily because she had to work. Wow, she put them in an orphanage because she had to work?
My thoughts
Wow, what a
exactly.
shitty mom. What a shitty
Right.
mom. Like you couldn't have found a better. You put them in a fucking orphanage and made them live there? Wow. I don't know what to say about that. That's insane. That's disgusting.
Right.
Okay, this is February. No, it's January.
It's January. Yeah.
Or no, yeah, in January. Okay, so it's you got this or you want me to do it?
You go for it.
Okay, in January 1944, when Lee was 4, he was taken out of the orphanage, and shortly thereafter, his mother moved with him to Dallas, Texas, where the boys joined them at the end of the school year. In May of 1945, Marguerite Oswald married her third husband, Edwin A. Eckadal. While the 2 boys attended a military boarding school, Lee lived at home and developed a warm attachment to Eckadal, occasionally accompanying his mother and stepfather on business trips around the country. Lee started school in Benbrook, Texas, but in the fall of 1946, after separation from Marguerite Oswald, uh,
Okay, I got
re-entered
this one.
Lee in the first. Okay.
Re-entered Lee in the first grade in Covington, Louisiana. In January 1947, while Lee was still in the first grade, the family moved to Fort Worth, Texas, as a result of an attempted reconciliation between Ekdal,
It's Eckadal.
Ekdala, Ekdal
It's
and Lee's
Eckadal.
mother. Okay. A year and a half later, before Lee was 9, his mother was divorced from her third husband as the result of a
Damn.
divorce. Mhm. Action instituted
300.
by Ekdal. Lee's school record during the next 5.5 years in Fort Worth was average. Although generally it grew poorer each year, the comments of teachers and others who knew him at that time do not reveal any unusual personality traits or characteristics.
Okay, so basically, Lee's mom was a horrible partner or something. He had to go through 3 divorces. Like, what's on her? Like, oh my god, there's something going on with her. Like, I don't know what's going on, but there's something going on with her. Then you
Right.
got this Ikadol guy who like seemed like he was pretty good for Lee. So I wonder what happened between Ikadol and his mother. So that's
Hmm.
kind of weird, but
Yeah.
that sucks for Lee because it sounds like he had a really good relationship with Ikadol, and that kind of like just went away after his mom divorced him. And that can be like really that can be kind of traumatizing.
Oh yeah, it's traumatizing for especially with the kid with it being a kid involved.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say I necessarily feel for Lee Harvey Oswald in the aspect of if he killed Kennedy, he's still but I do feel for him on the aspect of mental health because like everybody struggles with mental health and that sucks. Like he sounds like he went through a lot of stuff.
Right.
In May of
Okay.
1950, you want me to do this or
Yeah,
you
go
got
ahead
this
because I
one?
can't read it because of the numbers in the way.
I got you. In May 1953, after having been at youth house for 3 weeks, Lee Oswald returned to school where his attendance and grades temporarily improved. By the following fall, however, the probation officer reported that virtually every teacher complained about the boy's behavior. His mother insisted his mother insisted that he did not need psychiatric assistance, although there was apparently some improvement in Lee's behavior during the next few months. The court recommended further treatment. In January 1954, while Lee's case was still pending, Margaret and Lee left for New Orleans, the city of Lee's birth.
Quite articulate about 1 month
Articulate.
after articulate, yeah. About 1 month after he started the 10th grade and 11 days before his 16th birthday in October 1955, he brought to school a note purportedly written
Yeah.
by his mother, stating that the family was moving to California. The note was written by Lee. A few days later, he dropped out of school and almost immediately tried to join the Marine Corps because he was only 16. He was rejected. After leaving school, Lee worked for the next 10 months at several jobs in New Orleans as an office messenger or clerk. It was during this period that he started to read communist literature, occasionally in conversations with others. He praised communism and expressed to his fellow employees a desire to join the Communist Party. At about this time, when he was not yet 17, he wrote to the Socialist Party of America professing his belief in Marxism.
That's insane. So Lee Harvey
Right.
Oswald he wanted to be a communist. He wrote
Mhm.
Socialistic Party of America professing his belief in Marxism, which
Mhm.
you know what Marxism comes from Karl Marx.
Mm-mm.
Karl is not a good guy.
Right.
So here, let me pull this up real quick. Give me the definition of Marx. Marxism is a socio-economic and political theory developed by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels back in the 19th. It focuses on the idea that history is driven by class struggles between the working class, the proletariat, the owning class, the bourgeoisie. At its core, Marxism argues that capitalism, where private owners control production for profit, inherently exploits by paying them less than the value of what they produce. This creates inequality and tension. The theory predicts that these tensions will lead to a revolution where the proletariat overthrows the bourgeoisie, abolishing private property and establishing a classless, stateless society called communism. In this system, this means of production like factories, lands, and resources are collectively owned. Wealth is distributed based on a need rather than profit. Marxism also critiques religion, culture, and ideology as tools the ruling class uses to maintain power, famously calling the religion of the opium of the people. It's both an analysis of capitalism's flaws and a action for the societal change. Over time, it's influenced various movements, governments, and debates through interpretations and implementations like the Soviet Union or China often diverged from Marx's original vision. That is what Marxism is. That is what Lee Harvey Oswald professed his love for, or his
Okay.
belief in. Um, I don't know what that word says. Move followed in July 1956 when Lee and his mother returned to Fort Worth. He entered high school, but again dropped out after a few weeks and enlisted in the Marine Corps on October 1956. 6 days after his 17th birthday, on December 21st, 1956, during boot camp in San Diego, Oswald fired a score of 212 for record with the M1 rifle, 2 points the minimum for the rating of sharpshooter on a marksman/sharpshooter X scale. After his basic training, Oswald received training in aviation fundamentals and radar scanning. Ooh, so Crazy Man is really good with a gun. He was a sharpshooter in the Marine Corps. Oswald,
Already.
Oswald. Oh, you got this one?
No, I said already on like what you said. So I was like, oh,
All right. Well, Oswald served 15 months overseas until November 58, until November 58, November 1958, most of it in Japan. During his final year in the Marine Corps, he was stationed for the most part in Santa Ana, California, where he showed marked interest in the Soviet Union, sometimes expressed political radical views with dogmatic conviction. Oswald again fired the M1 rifle for record on May 1959, and time he shot a score of 191 on a shooter course, then before only 1 point over the minimum required to be a marksman. According to one of his fellow Marines, Oswald was not particularly interested in his rifle performance, and his unit was not expected to exhibit the usual rifle proficiency. During this period, he expressed strong admiration for Fidel Castro and his interest on joining the Cuban army. He tried to impress those around him as an intellectual, but his thinking appeared to his thinking appeared to some as shallow and rigid.
Orleans telling his mother he planned to get worked there in the shipping or import export business. In New Orleans, he booked passage on the freighter SS Marin Likes
Marin likes
Marin. Okay, Marin Likes, which sailed from New Orleans to Le Havre, France.
Havar,
On Havre,
I think.
yeah, yeah.
I don't
On
know. I can't say it.
yeah, I can't say it either. On September 20th, 1959. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna
Oh
be able to read
no,
that.
that's not. Yeah. Oswald's
Oswald
Marine service was terminated. Oh, sorry. You go.
Oswald's Marine service terminated on September 11th, 1959, when, at his own request, he was released from active service a few months ahead of his scheduled release. He offered as the reason for his release the ill health and economic plight of his mother. He returned to Fort Worth, remained with his mother only 3 days, and left for New Orleans.
Most people who in the Marines described him as a loner who resented the exercise of authority by others. He spent much of his free time reading. He was court-martialed once for possessing an unregistered private weapon, and on another occasion for using provocative language to a non-commissioned officer. He was, however, generally able to comply with the Marine discipline, even though his experience in the Marine Corps did not live up to his expectations.
The following month, Oswald met a 19-year-old Russian girl, Marina Nikolaevna Prusakova, a pharmacist who had been brought up in Leningrad but was then living with an aunt and uncle in Minsk. They were married on April 30th, 1961. Throughout the following year, he carried a correspondence with American and Soviet authorities seeking approval for the department of himself and his wife to the
The
United
departure.
States. Right, to
Yeah, the
departure.
departure. You said department.
I meant to say departure, my bad. I was trying not to cough at the same time.
You're good, bro.
And in the course of this effort, Oswald and his wife visited the U.S. Embassy in Moscow in July of 1961, primarily on the basis of an interview and questionnaire completed there. The embassy concluded that Oswald had not lost his citizenship, a decision subsequently ratified by the Department of State in Washington, D.C. Upon their return to Minsk, Oswald and his wife filed.
Yeah, Oswald and his wife filed.
Immediately on October 31st, 3 days after his release from the hospital, Oswald appeared at the American Embassy, announced that he wished to renounce his U.S. citizenship and become a Russian citizen, and handed the embassy officer a written statement he had prepared for the occasion. When asked his reasons, Oswald replied, "I am a Marxist." Oswald never formally complied with the legal steps necessary to renounce his American citizenship. The Soviet government did not grant his request for citizenship, but in January 1960, he was given permission to remain in the Soviet Union on a year-to-year basis. At the same time, Oswald was sent to Minsk, where he worked in a radio factory as an unskilled laborer. In January 1961, his permission to remain in the Soviet Union was extended for another year. A few weeks later, in February 1961, he wrote to the American Embassy in Moscow expressing a desire to return to the United States. With the Soviet authorities for permission to leave together, their formal application was made in July 1961 and on December 25th, 1961. Marina Oswald was advised it would be granted. A daughter was born to Oswald in February 1962. In the months that followed, they prepared for their return to the United States on May 9th, 1962. The the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service, at the request of the Department of State, agreed to waive a restriction under the law which would have prevented the issuance of a United States visa to Oswald's Russian wife until she had left the Soviet Union. They finally left Moscow on June 1st, 1962, and were assisted in meeting their travel expenses by a loan of $435.71 from the U.S. Department of State. 2 weeks later, but they arrived in Fort Worth, Texas. You can go ahead and read that one, bro.
For a few yeah, for a few weeks, Oswald, his wife, and child lived with Oswald's brother Robert. After a similar stay with Oswald's mother, they moved into their own apartment in early August. Oswald obtained a job on July 16th as a sheet metal worker. During this period in Fort Worth, Oswald was interviewed twice by agents of the FBI. A report of the first interview, which occurred on June 26th, described him as arrogant and unwilling to discuss the reasons why he had gone to the Soviet Union. Oswald denied that he was involved in Soviet intelligence activities and promised to advise the FBI if Soviet representatives ever communicated with him. He was interviewed again on August 16th when he displayed a less belligerent attitude and once again agreed to inform the FBI of any attempt to enlist to the intelligence activities. The purpose of the accumulated fund soon became known. On October 16, 1959, Oswald arrived in Moscow by train after crossing the border from Finland, where he had secured a visa for a stay in the Soviet Union. He immediately applied for Soviet citizenship. On the afternoon of October 21st, 1959, Oswald was ordered to leave the Soviet Union by 8 p.m. evening. The same afternoon, his room, Oswald, in a apparent suicide attempt, slashed his wrist and was hospitalized. In early October 1962, Oswald quit his job at the sheet metal plant and moved to Dallas. While living in Fort Worth, Oswald had been introduced to a group of Russian-speaking people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Many of them assisted the Oswalds by providing small amounts of food, clothing, and household items. Oswald himself was disliked by almost all of this, whose help to his family was prompted primarily by sympathy for Marina Oswald and the child. Despite the fact that he had the Soviet Union disillusioned with its government, Oswald seemed more firmly committed than ever with his concepts of Marxism. He showed his disdain for democracy, capitalism, and American society in general. He was highly critical of the Russian-speaking group because they seemed devoted to American concepts of democracy and capitalism and were ambitious to improve themselves economically. Why not? They want to make money.
Right.
Sorry, guys. I've got G stuff going on. It's really kicking my butt right now. Lee Harvey Oswald had presumably planned this step in his life for quite some time. In March of 1959, he applied to the Albert Schweitzer College in Switzerland for admission to the spring 1960 term. His letter of application contained many falsehoods concerning his qualifications and background. A few weeks before his discharge, he applied for and obtained a passport listing for the Soviet Union and other countries which he planned. During the service in the Marines, he had saved a comparatively large sum of money, possibly 1,500, which would appear to have been accomplished by a considerable frugality and apparently for a specific purpose. In February of 1963, the Oswalds met Ruth Payne at a social gathering. Ruth was temporarily separated from her husband and living with her two children in Texas, a suburb of Dallas, because of of an interest in Russian language and sympathy for Marina Oswald, who spoke no English and had little funds, Ruth Paine befriended Marina and during the next 2 months visited her on several occasions. On April 6, 1963, Oswald lost his job with the photography firm. A few days later, on April 10th, he attempted to kill Major General Edwin. Oh my goodness. He attempted to kill somebody and they didn't put him in jail? I guess we'll get to that.
Right. A. Walker, retired U.S. Army, using a rifle which he had ordered by mail 1 month previously under an assumed name. Marina Oswald learned of her husband's act when she confronted him with a note which he had left, giving her instructions in the event he did not return. That incident and their general
Economic.
economic difficulties impelled Marina Oswald to suggest that her husband leaves Dallas and go to New Orleans to look for work. Oswald left for New Orleans on April 24th, 1963. Ruth Paine, who knew nothing of the Walker shooting, invited Marina Oswald and the baby to stay with her in the Paines' modest home. While Oswald thought work in New Orleans early in May, upon receiving word from Oswald that he had found a job, Ruth Paine drove Marina Oswald and the baby to New Orleans to rejoin Oswald.
During this stay in New Orleans, Oswald formed a fictitious New Orleans chapter of Fair Play for Cuba Committee. He posed as the secretary of this organization and represented that the president was A. Hittel. In reality, Hittel was a completely fictitious person created by Oswald. The organization's only member, Oswald was arrested on August 9th in connection with a scuffle which occurred while he was distributing pro-Castro leaflets. The next day, while at the station, he was interviewed by the FBI agent after Oswald requested the police to arrange such an interview. Oswald gave the agent false information about his own background and was evasive in replies concerning fair play for Cuba. During the next 2 weeks, Oswald appeared on radio programs twice, claiming to be the spokesman for the Fair Play to Cuba Committee in New Orleans. On July 19th, 1963, Oswald lost his job as a greaser of coffee processing machinery. In September, after an exchange of correspondence with Marina Oswald, Ruth Paine drove to New Orleans and on September 23rd transported Marina and the child and the family belongings to Irving, Texas. Ruth Paine suggested that Marina Oswald, who was expecting her second child in October, live at the Paine's house until after the baby was born. Oswald remained behind ostensibly to find work, either in Houston or some other city. Instead, he departed from Mexico, arriving in City on September 27th, where he promptly visited the Cuban and Russian embassies. He stated his objective was to obtain permission to visit Cuba. On his way to the Soviet Union, the Cuban government would not grant his visa unless the Soviet government would also issue a visa. Permitting his entry into Russia, Oswald's effort to secure visa failed, and he left for Dallas, where he arrived on October 3rd, 1960.
Oh, that's too small for me to read.
Brother. Opening, she informed Oswald, who was interviewed the following day at the depository and started to work there on October 1963. On October 20th, the Oswald's second daughter was born. During October and November, Oswald established a general pattern of weekend visits to Irving, arriving on Friday afternoon and returning to Dallas Monday morning with a fellow employee, Buell Wesley Frazier, who lived near the Paynes. On Friday, November 15th, Oswald in Dallas at the suggestion of his wife, who told him that the house would be too crowded because of a birthday for Ruth Payne's daughter. On Monday, November 18th, Oswald and his wife quarreled bitterly during a telephone conversation because she learned that the first time that he was living at the rooming house under an assumed name. On Thursday, November 1st, Oswald told Frazier that he would like to drive to Irving to pick up some curtain rods at an apartment in Dallas. His wife and Miss Payne were quite surprised to see him since it was a Thursday night. They thought that he had returned to make up after Monday's quarrel. He was conciliatory, but Marina Oswald was angry.
Later that evening, when Miss Payne had finished cleaning the kitchen, she went into the garage and noticed that the light was burning. She was certain that she had not left it on, although the incident appeared unimportant at the time. In the garage were most of the Oswald's personal possessions. The following morning, Oswald left while his wife was still in bed feeding the baby. She did not see him leave the house, not nor did Ruth Payne. On the dresser in their room, he left his wedding ring, which he had never done before. His wallet containing $170 was left intact in a dresser drawer. Oswald walked to Frazier's house about half a block away and placed a long, bulky package made out of wrapping paper and tape, which the rear seat of the car, or no, into the rear seat of the car, sorry. He told Frazier that the package contained curtain rods. When they reached the depository parking lot, Oswald walked quickly ahead. Frazier followed and saw Oswald enter the depository building carrying the long, bulky package with him. Later that evening, when Miss Payne had finished cleaning the kitchen, she went into the garage and noticed that the light was burning. She was certain that she had not left it on, although the incident appeared unimportant at the time. In the garage were most of Oswald's personal possessions. The following morning, Oswald left while his wife was still feeding the baby. She did not see him leave the house, nor did Ruth Payne. Oh, I already read all that.
You already read. Yeah, you already read
Yeah,
that.
I already read all that.
Yeah, it's a lot
I was
to
about to
read,
say,
but no. So basically, yeah, no. So he took the long, bulky package with him to the depository, and he told that dude curtains for his wife. How did the dude not realize they weren't in an apartment complex?
right.
Why didn't you report Oswald for what he was doing? Wouldn't you report that? I would report that. He told me that shit was curtains. There's no way that's curtains. He took that to the school book depository. Why the hell did he curtains the school book depository? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's some dumb shit. Like,
Yeah,
dude should have reported him, but I guess they were friends, right? So friends don't report
right.
friends.
Exactly.
During the morning of November 22nd, Marina Oswald followed President Kennedy's activity on television. She and Ruth Payne cried when they heard that the president had been shot. Ruth Payne translated the news of the shooting to Marina Oswald as it came over the television. including the report that the shots were probably fired from the building where Oswald worked. When Marina Oswald heard this, she recalled the episode and the fact that her husband still owned the rifle. She went quietly into Payne's garage where the rifle had been concealed in a blanket among their other belongings. It appeared to her that the rifle was still there, although she did not actually open the blanket. Why didn't you open the blanket? At about 3 p.m., the police arrived at the Payne's house and asked Marina Oswald whether her husband owned a rifle. She said that he and then looked into the garage and pointed at the rolled up blanket, aka as Sir lifted it. The blanket hung limply over either side of his arm. The rifle was not there. Oh, he took it. Meanwhile, at police headquarters, Captain Fritz had begun questioning Oswald. Soon after the start of the first interrogation, agents of the FBI and the United States Secret Service participated in the questioning. Oswald denied having anything to do with the assassination of President Kennedy or the murder of a patrolman Tippit. He claimed that he was eating lunch at the time of the assassination and that he then spoke with his foreman for about 5 to 10 minutes before going home. He denied that he owned a rifle. Confronted in a subsequent interview, the picture showing him holding a rifle and a pistol, he claimed his face had been superimposed on somebody else's body. He refused to answer any questions about the presence in his wallet of a selective service card with his picture and the name Alec J. Hiddle.
Oswald saw his wife the next day. It was decided that Oswald would rent a room in Dallas and visit his family on weekends. For 1 week, he rented a room from Miss Bledsoe, the woman who later saw him on the bus shortly after the assassination on October 14th, 1963. He rented the Beckley Avenue room and listed his name as O.H. Lee. On the same day, at the suggestion of a neighbor, Miss Payne phoned the Texas school book depository and was told that there was a job.
During the question on the third floor of the police department, more than 100 representatives of the press and radio and television were crowded into the hall through which Oswald had to pass. When being taken from cell to Captain Fritz's office for interrogation, reporters tried to interview Oswald. During these trips between Friday afternoon and Sunday morning, he appeared in the hallway at least 16 times. The generally confused conditions outside and inside Captain Fritz's office increased the difficulty of police questioning. Advised by the police that he could communicate with an attorney, Oswald made several telephone calls on Sunday in an effort to procure representation at his own choice and discussed the matter with the president of a local bar association. Who offered to obtain counsel, Oswald declined, saying that he would first try to obtain counsel himself. By Sunday morning, had not yet engaged an attorney.
The formal charge against Oswald for the assassination of President Kennedy was lodged shortly after 1:30 a.m. on Saturday, November 23rd. By 10 p.m. of the day of the assassination, the FBI had traced the rifle found on the sixth floor of the Texas School Book Depository to a mail order house in Chicago,
Sorry,
which
my
had
nose is all screwed up.
you're good, had purchased it from a distributor in New York. approximately 6 hours left or later, the Chicago firm advised that this rifle had been ordered in March 1963 by an A. Heidel for shipment to Post Office Box 2915 in Dallas, Texas. Box rented by Oswald. Payment for the rifle was remitted by a money order signed by A. Heidel. By 6:45 p.m. on November 23rd, the FBI was able to advise the Dallas police that as a result of handwriting analysis of the documents used to purchase the rifle, it had concluded that the rifle had been ordered by Lee Harvey Oswald.
At 7:10 p.m. on November 22nd, 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald was formally advised that he had been charged with the murder of Patrolman J.D. Tippit. Several witnesses to the Tippit slaying to the subsequent flight of men had positively identified Oswald in police lineups. While firearm identification evidence was not available at the time, the revolver in Oswald's possession at the time of his arrest was the type which could have fired the shots that killed Tippit. And that, guys, that was page 16. So Oswald killed, or apparently Oswald snuck a gun up, or a rifle, up to the school book depository by telling his friend that his wife and child needed curtains at an apartment building. And really, he was taking a weapon, this rifle, up to the school book depository building.
Right.
Like, his friends saw all that happen and was not a part of it after. I didn't do that.
Right.
Bro, that gets me so much. Like, did he just not want to report all? Like, that's had to have been what it was. That's my friend. I know this is sketchy, but I'm not report it. That's makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
What are your thoughts about Harvey's or Oswald's diagnosis and how they thought he was a psychiatric and his of the Marine
Well,
Corps and denied, and then going to Russia and living in Russia the Soviet Union and living there for a little while, and then being kicked out in the United States where he had to plea for citizenship, and they almost didn't give his wife citizenship.
okay, so with him having a rough childhood, experiencing his mom go from relationship to relationship to relationship, that's what causes
Yeah.
issues at school. So that's obvious. So he was starting to struggle in school because he was witnessing his mom go through so many marriages. And then, he, after all that, he was going through all these struggles because of everything he went through as a kid.
Right.
And he wasn't doing things he should have done the right way. So he wasn't using his brain.
Nah, he really wasn't. He was doing everything wrong too. Like, and people were trying to tell him, and he just wasn't listening to anybody. And he was saying that he was a Marxist and that he believed in Marxism. That's insane. Like, tell anybody that because you look crazy the second you tell people that. And he got a Russian wife, brought her back to the States, didn't teach her English, had kids with her, and left her like multiple different times to go to different cities to look for work. And then on top of that, apparently made a point to assassinate the president, and in the process assassinate the president and killed a policeman.
Right.
His wife did nothing about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
dude, doesn't add up.
Right. Well, I'm like, okay, so he killed a police officer. He brought a package into his job, which obviously had the rifle in it.
And nobody
The rifle,
reported it.
right? Nobody reported it. When the police did question his wife and Miss Payne, no rifle to be found.
Yeah.
He
And,
did it. He did it.
I mean, well, Lee Harvey Oswald either did it or he was the patsy of all patsies, and he was MK Ultra. Because a lot of the stuff he's doing doesn't make sense to a normal person.
Right.
Now, I will say the weirdness of him like going to the union and then starting an entire group that like praised Cuba and Fidel Castro. That's crazy. Like, oh my god, like that's crazy. Why didn't we apprehend I guess it's not illegal to have those views. But I feel like the FBI should have been watching him a lot harder than they were. They only saw that dude twice. They only saw him twice. Only talked to him twice. Like, they could have done a better job at vetting him, in my personal opinion.
Hmm.
I do have this real guys. I want to show you all this.
He was pronounced guilty under circumstantial evidence, and that's all over with.
Another Oswald expert, his wife Marina, wants us to remember that her husband was never tried.
Wife of assassin, and that legal stigma that attached. I hope in my lifetime will be changed. But wishing for it doesn't make it come true.
Apparently, she does know English.
That's his. Was that Marina?
Yeah.
Yeah, she learned English. That's probably what happened. In all honesty, she ended up learning English. She didn't seem to think her husband was treated very fairly, nor she thought there was some screwballery going around. And, she thought maybe he was set up. That was basically what she was saying. He didn't have a child. Nothing happened. He was, I believe he was murdered by Jack Ruby, right? Somebody killed Oswald. And this one's pretty interesting. This one was just released, and it's real. It's not AI. This is a phone call from Lyndon B. Johnson to somebody ordering a hit on JFK. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but this is not AI. This is a real phone call between Lyndon B. Johnson and a guy that he tried to hire to assassinate JFK, supposedly. But I mean that's the conversation that's going on, and it is Lyndon B. Johnson. It's not AI. So here it goes.
According to the Warren Commission, how many different wounds did the single bullet inflict?
Good to see you. How's life treating you today? Well, Saul, it's been a pretty touch and go situation. Linda and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal that he hired Mike Wallace to assassinate the president. It's been hectic in every way, but we've lived through it this far. I guess we'll continue to do so. Lyndon should have never issued that order to Mike. But we've had our differences, and I'm a true blue to Lyndon, as I've always been, and tried to carry out every order that he's ever given me. But this is one I'll probably never be able to forget. And the times that we've had in Texas, and the embarrassment that Lyndon had gotten from Kennedy, I guess there wasn't anything else to do but what he did.
Well, you know, Lyndon could have really hit me if he would.
Well, Lyndon's the kind of person that doesn't want to help anyone. He's all for Lyndon, and that's the way he's pretty much always been.
Well, they had me backed up on that Henry Marshall killing, and they just, it's sure good to see you. How's life? It's sure good to see you. How's life treating you today?
So that is so it wasn't Lyndon B. Johnson admitting or calling out it. So basically, it's a guy that was really close to Lyndon B. Johnson. Basically, either who I guess was one of the agents, or something. He was really close to Lyndon, and Lyndon B. Johnson asked him to put out a hit on a JFK, basically this guy Mark or whatever. And that other dude was like, I can't believe he did that. That's the one order that I'll always shoot Lyndon B for. So that's pretty intense. That phone call exists, and this mysterious phone call. I mean, like, how wasn't released, because this implicates Lyndon B. Johnson. That's what this does. This implicates Lyndon B. Johnson, murder of John F. Kennedy. And then I have this last video over here. I have this last video over here, and this is the one that I accidentally played beforehand. But this is about the magic bullet theory. Like, it's such a dumb theory. But listen to what this guy says, because it's why I think the magic bullet theory is stupid.
The Warren Commission, how many different wounds did the single bullet inflict? How many wounds did the single bullet inflict? That's like, it's not a hypothetical, it's an actual number. You have to count them up. So it's a test of how much you know, how much you've studied, what you've learned possibly on this channel. But the central theme of the Warren Commission report is that a single bullet inflicted how many total wounds inside of the limo. 4 is not right. I mean, it depends on how you count, right, Cyrano? I'll tell you how I count, and the answer that is most commonly given. Okay, another minute, 30 seconds. How many total wounds did the single bullet inflict, according to the Warren Commission?
So how many do you think it was?
Not sure.
Did that single bullet make on JFK, according to the Warren Commission? Okay, so the breakdown is oh my goodness. Seven wounds from one bullet. 2 wounds to JFK, 5 wounds to Connolly, for a total of 7 wounds. That's insane. Yeah, no, I don't believe bullet didn't cause 7 wounds. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. I always thought it was 4. I thought it was 4. Because that's what they told us in school, right? I feel like that's what they told us in school.
Oh, you know what I just realized? I'm trying to do it because I forgot to do it last night.
What?
Post the send the episode to the page.
Oh no.
So
Okay, Chris says
I
hi. Chris,
hi
hi.
Chris. Hi Chris.
Also, he also
But
says, mystery story time. Well, I'm going to go to bed, so good show, gentlemen. Keep up the work. And
thank you, Chris.
Brandon said, drink a shot every time Robert Cruz says JFK. And Jared Lloyd says, what's up, brother? What's up, dude? Yeah.
But yeah, so I posted the episode from last night a little bit ago, and I posted tonight's episode.
Thank you for everybody that's been watching, and thank you to everybody that took the time to listen to this episode. As always, guys, we'll be back on Tuesday next week to another episode on the JFK Files. It's our new See You Next Tuesday podcast. All about the JFK Files, the Warren Commission, the Assassination Commission, and every other commission that had a joint effort in declassifying these files, creating the files. Because let's just think about it. The Warren Commission, it's the whole reason the files were in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, guys, I'm Robert.
And I'm Crew.
Peace out until next time. And we'll see you next Tuesday for the JFK.
If you don't like boring news but still crave the truth, then dive into The Robert and Crew Show. From mind-bending conspiracy theories to wild weather phenomena, we've got it all. Ever wondered what's really happening in your hometown, or what secrets the global news isn't telling you? We dig deep into the core of every story, unraveling the mysteries one podcast at a time. Join Robert and the crew as we navigate this vibrant, ever-changing cyberpunk landscape, bringing you interviews with the most intriguing minds out there. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, a news junkie or a weather enthusiast, there's something here for you. So strap in, listeners, because we're about to take you on a ride through the neon-lit alleys of truth and intrigue. This is the Robert and Crew Show, where the future meets the fantastic.